Welcome to Dice and Mind, a podcast hosted by Brad Brown and Jason Kaufman to explore the intersection of life, games, science, music, philosophy, and creativity through interviews with leading creatives. All are welcome in this space.
So, a couple weeks back, having a bad day, gonna have a root canal done, and literally go in and thought I was gonna have the root canal, and they think it's just gonna be a consult for the root canal. So, I'm there saying, no, I'm not gonna leave until this is actually done because I'm in immense amount of pain.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, okay, we'll come back in 2 hours. So I go back to my car, and I get a text from you.
That's
that
right.
literally says Star Trek technical manual, and or technical manual. It didn't place with me. So, and I thought you were like because you are doing your remodel in your basement.
Yeah.
You had packed up your books. I
Yeah.
know the remodel wasn't done, but I thought that you had gone into one of your boxes and were reminiscing in one of
That's funny.
well, either the TNG or the DS9, one of the manuals had bubbled up in the box
Yeah.
initially. So that was my first inclination.
Yeah.
And then when I think I responded back with question mark or something, and then you just I'd have to go back and look at the text.
Yeah.
Then it resonated oh, the new STA book coming out is a technical manual.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah. Yeah, because you texted me, you're like, waiting for a root canal. This is much better news, or something to that effect.
Yeah, it was, yeah. This makes the day a little bit better. Yeah. It literally on a day where you're having, literally how many jokes are there? Like, how worse can a day be when you're having a root canal?
Oh, and don't even get me started on the jokes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how and not only that, you can pre-order it and get the PDF. So you literally can that day look at the book.
And I did.
Yeah, well, so did I.
Yes. Yeah.
So you did it quicker than me. I didn't. I waited till I got home
I
so
mean,
that
in
I
all
could order it on
fairness.
my computer.
Right.
But holy moly.
Oh man. Yeah.
And totally not what I was expecting based off
No.
of Jim's hints, which we will talk about in the interview we had with Jim and Michael and Al.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a special interview. I mean, all of these guys have graced us with their presence before, and we're grateful for that. But man, when we saw this come out, you and I immediately were like, we need to ask the writing team to come on.
Like now.
Like now. You were really emphatic about that too.
We were like, because you and I were recording that night, I think.
Yeah.
And you were like, I think I was like, see if they'll come tonight, which was ridiculous because everyone has lives.
But they were we put this together really quickly, and to their credit, I mean, they're all friends of the podcast at this point, and all three, Jim and Michael and Al, they're
just friends now.
Yeah, right. And they were just like, let's do it. And there was actually one other supposed to be with us. And then life happened. And so he'll be coming. He'll be coming to talk more broadly in the next many weeks.
Sorry.
Yeah, Gesundheit.
Yeah.
So as everyone goes back 15 seconds and then puts it down to 0.5x.
Yeah, exactly.
So we were really eager to talk to them about the tech manual, and not just because it's an STA tech manual. And I mean, I certainly, I'll just speak for myself. I absolutely love both the TOS and the TNG tech manuals. The TOS tech manual that a friend introduced me to.
Isn't there a DS9 one too?
There is, and I have it. Yeah, you're right.
But I love that one. That's mine.
I agree. That one's written a bit differently again.
Yeah.
But the TOS tech manual that a friend introduced me to sophomore year of high school.
Scott?
No. I didn't. No.
That shocks me.
Scott and I didn't become really close until senior year, and he was already in outside of Madison. But
Oh,
no, I had a friend at the time, Ken, and he was really into Star Trek. And I was really into Star Trek, but just like I loved the movies and I thought the show was fun, right? Like I
yeah,
was already definitely a Trekkie. But for me, that was the movies, the original films, and then the start of TNG, right?
yeah.
Which has been out for just a few years at this point. But what really brought me down the rabbit hole of Trek was TNG on the one hand and the TOS tech manual. And being introduced to that level of insight, right? And then when the TNG tech manual came out later, it was like mind blown because it was really written as a tech manual. So when you and I saw a tech manual for Star Trek Adventures, it was like, this is incredible. But not just because of the geekery and the mechanics and the detail, all there. You and I picked up the PDF. Like we ordered obviously the print, but we were reading through the PDF immediately. And I think you're the one who said to me first, like, this is still lit RPG. This is
Yeah.
readable, not just as a tech manual. This is readable. And we reached out, and I mean, you're going to hear it in the interview. They're like, yeah, we know we did that on purpose,
They did. I
which
think you.
is incredible.
I think you had in preparing and in talking. And correct me if I probably even shouldn't say this. I think you were talking to Jim, and I think beforehand in preparation,
Yeah.
you know, for this, and he had even mentioned that that was something that was an underlying current
Yeah, that
with
they
this, and
intentionally went for.
you know, and something we conducted an interview last night for a future episode
Yeah.
that is going to be
So
a great
cool.
one. It's a
Yeah. Oh
good one.
man. Oh man.
And you'll so foreshadowing something that came up in that interview last night that still resonates with me 24 hours later is
Interesting.
that's that's it's the our guest said the material that they're working on
Hmm.
was is can be used as coffee table material.
Yes. Yes.
And I loved that.
Yeah.
So this is a tech manual, and this and our guest even said, "Oh, Utopia Planatia is like that too," and it
Uh-huh.
absolutely is. And
Yes.
I even joked and said I have an extra copy because I keep one up at my old man chair,
Yep.
and and
At least you're calling it what it is.
it is that's what it is. Um, I keep that with my extra copy of Captain's Log
And your
and Utopia.
Metamucil and your cane. And you've got your
No, I
nightmare.
don't have
Oh.
Metamucil,
Oh.
but I do have my multivitamin there. Um, but it's not an over 50 one. I have to
Which
take a
is
special one.
we'll
But
ignore the irony. Yeah. Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So, but moving on.
Moving on.
But no,
But slowly.
but that's one of those things where I'm just gonna, when we talk about it, lit RPG and the questions we ask when we next have our a lit RPG review session.
Yeah.
Um, it's one of those, it's not really a true question, but it is. Is it, would you put it out on a coffee table for a sci-fi
That
fan? And
that's provocative.
you know, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those books that you could put out there and they'd look at it and they'd be fascinated by it. They'd be curious perhaps about some of the STA numbers and some of that
Of course.
information.
Yep.
And um and we talk about it, it could spur their interest
Yeah.
in STA, or they just might pick it up because it's just great ST, you know?
I could see from that perspective, Brad. I could see having not the gaming playing perspective, but the lit, the reading, the coffee table perspective of putting out the game master guide, the
Yeah.
player's guide, and the tech manual.
Yeah.
And you'd basically have the entirety of Trek. That's another thing, by the way, that is really neat about the tech manual, that it's all the way up to now,
Hmm.
right? And actually, some of you will figure this out readily, but so as we are recording this, it's the same day. No, it's one day after the full trailer for Strange New Worlds season 3 dropped.
Which I haven't watched yet.
Oh
Shoot,
my God, you've got to watch it, and you need to watch the
forgot.
Tales of the Underworld from Star Wars trailer.
Yes, and you know what? And I sent you a trailer earlier today, and I can't believe I missed those two. And I sent you
I did not
the.
know there was a new Naked Gun coming.
I didn't
That's
either until I sent you that trailer.
incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I did not know until it popped up in my blog roll and it was in such a random area too. But moving on.
Okay,
But
moving on. Okay.
yes, but this idea of it being, and
Mhm.
when every time you hear coffee table book, for those of us that, were a little older, teen years or older in the 90s, you probably think of Seinfeld and Kramer coffee table book about coffee tables. But um truly, there's we're going to be talking about more books that are great coffee table material with the guests
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
alluded to. But
hmm
um I just think of that as is this is great, and even the book cover and the art in it and
Oh,
everything.
okay. The
So
art.
but
Oof.
but again, we could talk about this for hours before, and we haven't even gotten to the
So
interview
we
with our
we should get
guests.
into the interview because
Yeah.
it's, as you can imagine, it's a lengthier interview. It really moves. So any listeners of Dice and Mind will be familiar with all of these individuals: Jim Johnson, Al Spader, Michael Dismuke. They've all been on the show more than once. They'll all be back. Although I think if we have Jim on anymore, we probably have to like start offering to pay for a car. I don't know what comes after the smoking jacket. Something.
Well,
And
it wasn't
Michael's
really a
probably getting,
smoking jacket. It was a non-smoking
what was a non-smoking
hoodie.
DS9 sweatshirt, which is,
It was a
yeah.
non-smoking DS9 hoodie.
Jim Johnson was born about the same time Apollo 12 landed on the moon and has always been kind of spacey, and shares a birthday with the Kindle. He is the author of the Pistols and Pyramids Weird Western series and the Potomac Shadows Urban Fantasy series. He's also written a bunch of other stuff in and around the science fiction and fantasy genres and pen and paper RPGs. He is currently project manager and line editor for Modiphius' Star Trek Adventures RPG. Al Spader is a middle school science teacher, father of 5-year-old twin boys, and a freelance RPG writer and game designer. As a regular writer for Star Trek Adventures and lead designer of the Sentience 2D20 RPG, Al brings his knowledge of neurodivergence and social emotional learning to the TTRPG community. Michael Dismuke is a certified professional in talent development and certified leadership development and succession strategist. He is a national speaker trainer and consultant, a freelance writer for the Star Trek Adventures RPG, and a published comic creator.
Introductions are done. Everyone knows everyone here. Let's talk about the new book that's out. We have three of the folks that were highly involved in this. We're going to take a different spin though, because Jim, you've been out on the tour. We've had all of you have been talking about this book. I kind of want to talk about, and Jason and I want to talk about, um, not necessarily going into, like a chapter by chapter thing. You have a lot of discussion out there with a lot of great people talking about it. Can we talk a bit more about the the genesis behind putting this together? Because this is a different type of source book. When I go and look at my shelf of source material, I have the operation, I have the division manuals, I have the quadrant manuals. This is different. And the day that this was announced, I immediately went and grabbed my old technical manuals because it was just so nostalgic to hear about this.
Mhm.
Um, what was the onus
Yeah.
behind kind of
So even if I may,
put,
even bigger
yeah,
umbrella, why this topic? Why this team of writers?
thank you. Yes.
Because we know most, actually, I think, yeah, we know almost all of you. Some of you fairly well. Jim, why these
We
guys?
do know all of you.
Yeah. Well, but there are a couple who we don't know. Not as well.
Well,
Yeah.
amongst
Yeah.
our guests here, we do.
Yeah. So why?
Oh boy, I'll try to keep it short and sweet.
Can't be done.
So we
We got time.
oh, I know, but I also want to be conscious of rambling too much because I have a really bad habit of doing that. So we were developing second edition, and we did the first round of products. Right, we knew we were doing the quick start, the core book, the game toolkit, and the starter set. Those would be the first ones out the gate that first year, right? First 8 months or whatever it was from launch. And we knew we needed to start thinking, okay, what are we going to be doing as our first year of supplements after that, right? And so pretty quickly, I mean, even while we were still developing, we were near the end of the development of the core book. We knew we needed to start filling the slate of products to work on for 2025 and 2026 and so on and so forth. And we looked at the body of work that we had already done for first edition, and we knew going into second edition that we were consciously not going to regurgitate content from first edition. We weren't going to do a Shackleton 2.0 or a Command Sourcebook 2.0. We were going to do net new stuff, right? Certainly, we would be reusing some content from first edition and reimagining it or rewriting it and then putting it into a new product. But overall, all the new products were going to be new, right? So knowing that, we said, okay, what haven't we done yet, right? And we also knew that with the launch of a new edition, there was an opportunity for us to maybe target a market that we haven't really targeted before, and that was like the casual Star Trek fan who may want to check out the game, but maybe are really just looking for a cool new Star Trek supplement that they can't get out in the general nonfiction world of Star Trek. Because there's a lot of great Star Trek nonfiction out there. Haven't been a lot of technical manuals recently, other than the Hero Collector / Eagle Moss, repackaging of the fact files and other stuff. And they did one of those for Voyager, Next Gen, DS9, and the original series. They didn't touch any of the any of the new track, right? So I knew, like, when leadership said, okay, let's do a technical manual. What does that look like? And then we hashed out the parameters of what does that look like? What does that mean? And we had a page count to target, and we had all of our goals and stuff. And it was like, well, as I was looking at my shelf of nonfiction and looking at what was coming for nonfiction Star Trek, I was like, there really hasn't been a new technical manual in decades, and certainly not one that covers all the new Trek, right? Nothing's out there right now for Prodigy, Strange New Worlds, or I mean, Lower Decks to some extent. That Cerritos handbook came out. That was pretty awesome. And then our Lower Decks book, but there just hasn't been anything comprehensive, right? There hasn't been a comprehensive tech manual. So that was kind of the marching orders from Modiphius leadership was let's make the first supplement out the gate, the technical manual. And it's like, okay, let's go. And so I started, putting together the initial outline, and then once that kind of came together, you asked why this group of people, and I think the timeline is always an issue, right? Who's available and who can write fast and who can write good fast, and each of those categories has a slightly different size of people associated with it, right? And it just worked out that the first bunch on my list were available, and that's where I went, right? This book, like if you get into the weeds a little bit about the project management, um, some of our books in first edition, it was really kind of a free for all where I'd invite a bunch of writers in and they'd say, "Oh, I want to write this section, or I want to write this section, I want to write this section," and there was a little bit of push and pull and give and take, and eventually we got the thing done. But that turned to be a bit chaotic from time to time because, especially for me, doing the number crunching and the paperwork, it's like, oh shoot, who wrote this chapter? Well, Al wrote 1,000 words, and Michael wrote 2,000 words, and Aaron wrote 150 words, and like having to keep track of all that over a 200-page book has just turned into a big pain in the butt. So this time I said, "Hey, chapter one, Nathan, you go write chapter one. Chapter two, hey Dayton,
Yeah.
you go write chapter two. Here's your topic," and so that simplified my workload. And I think just in talking to Al and Michael, and they can certainly add some color, I think it made it easier on them because they knew I'm just focused on medical technology. I'm just
Mhm.
focused on diplomatic corps. I'm just focused on weapons and armor. And I think that makes it easier for them, gives them some ownership over the chapters, and just keeps things moving along. So I think it was putting together a list of teams. Plus I've got two other books in development now too, right? There's another book coming out and then another book coming out and more coming out. And so spreading the wealth, like I got a lot of freelancers available to me, right? Not everybody can work on every book as much as I would like them to, but I also respect my freelancers too much to say, "Hey, you want 100 words on this book? You want 100 words on this book?" Because like no one wants that small of an assignment. I mean, I'm sure
So,
some
so
people would.
yeah, I'm listening to you, and like I'm watching Elle's smile grow bigger and bigger, and it's like you can almost see the thought bubble. Like I will.
Well, no, well, yes, he's probably thinking that. But Al, over the last year plus, has also gotten a lot of experience as a project manager on his own stuff, and
Right.
he's probably having these exact same pain points of like, okay, I've got 30 freelancers and X number of products. I can't service all of them,
Yeah.
meaningfully. So how do I do the best I can with with what I've got? So, and some freelancers reached out to me after the announcement and said, "Hey, did I miss an email? Why wasn't I involved in this?" It's like,
Sure.
oh, or it's not that I'm ignoring you. It's just like I didn't have enough work for everybody. So I'll
Hmm.
come around to you again, and you've already got work on this other thing, and it's all good. But writers, we are all very insecure, and that's just the nature of the job, right? And I get it because I'm the same way, right? So I totally respect it coming from other writers. But anyway, so that's it basically. Got the assignment, figured out what we had to do, reached out to a bunch of writers, and then charged forward. There were a couple of writers who said, "No, I'm not available," and that's unfortunate. 'Cause
Wow.
you know me, I always try to make the team super diverse and across the board. I can only do so much when people say no. I mean, it's like I
Hmm.
want everybody to say yes, but I mean, we're all freelancers, right? So we're all busy and we've all got different gigs going on. And if someone's not available, then it's like, okay, I'm sorry I missed you. I'll try to catch you next time, and hope your schedule clears up or whatever. So you know. Not to say that this is not a diverse team. It could have certainly been more diverse. I'll own that. But there's only so much I can do with
Hmm.
time, and it probably sounds like an excuse, but that's just the reality of being a project manager and knowing that I've got to get it done and go with.
Well,
Well, also, Jim, the cost of producing RPG books right now is through the roof, right? So we're trying to pay close attention to page count. We're trying to pay close attention, to how, the weight of the book, and like there's only so much to go around. So I appreciate that you had us on board to help out with that.
Yeah,
But I think like I saw a core rule book today that was $70 on the shelf at my
that's not uncommon
Sentience.
anymore.
yeah.
So,
And
um,
No,
it
it's
could be,
not.
honestly.
so luckily, because we're keeping, we're not putting out 300-page monsters every single book.
Mhm.
There's only so much to go around.
Yeah, and that was a challenge for this book. I'll be honest. Some of our late first edition books, like the Discovery book and the Federation Klingon War book and Lower Decks, those were like 200, 240 pages, and it was nice to have that space and that ability to kind of expound on things, and honestly to be a little indulgent in some places, to like, oh yeah, let's add more tables here, or let's go into more detail on the Pakleds over here or whatever.
Mhm.
But for second edition, we wanted to be really, really more stringent and more rigorous about page count and everything. So this came in at 120. The target goal for this was 128, and I did my very, very best to stick to that. And unfortunately, we had to cut a good chunk of content, which I hate doing, but a lot of it will find its way
Right.
either into blog posts or into other publications.
Mhm.
Everybody got paid for all the work they did, but we
Mhm.
just had to cut it in layout because it was like the initial layout was like 170 something pages. I was like, yeah, that ain't gonna fly. We need to
Wow.
start chopping. So yeah, unfortunately, a lot of great stuff got whacked out of here, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the nature of the business. Like Al said, books, especially print books, are not getting cheaper. And now we've got U.S. new administration who are going to be imposing tariffs on everybody, and that's just going to make the prices go up
Yeah.
because big surprise, the end customer is the one who gets hit with the tariff.
Mhm.
It's not the country. Surprise.
Mhm.
So we're just trying to be conscious of that and trying to
And
make.
you guys do a lot of printing overseas too, right? In
Yeah,
Lithuania and all
we
that.
can't afford to
So
print in America. It's too expensive.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I have to. So, Al, Michael, so you get the call, as it, so to speak, from Jim. You interested in writing for the new STA tech manual? I mean, come on. Did like it blows my mind that anyone said no. We'll come back to that. Did no even cross either of your minds to be offered to write on something like right? They're both shaking their heads. I mean, this is pretty unique, right? I mean, how I can't imagine you guys saying no to something like this.
I was begging for this. I'm a big fan of the TNG technical manual and
Oh,
the Eagle Moss books about
oh God,
Voyager and
yes.
Deep Space Nine. And
Yes.
being a modern educator, at work and stuff, I just felt though that was good for the Grognard set, of which we are all retiring from, it wasn't matching how people consume information nowadays. So I've been dying for a new technical manual. And if RPG is the first one that's going to get the one to break that, then good.
Mm.
So I was so like thrilled with this because playing with the new generation, I have people who've never watched Star Trek who play
Right.
RPG with me. I needed to give them some. If I handed them the technical manual, they would be like, deuterium, what? But in this case, we could really start from the foundation as a jumping off point for
Mhm.
people. If they're interested, they can still go buy the TNG manual on Amazon if they want to get deeper. But if they just need enough just to, one, understand the Star Trek universe a little bit better from a technical side, or two, to enhance their playing experience for their character, then I was thrilled by this opportunity.
Well, and I'll say on that note, it's just before you jump in, Al, because I know you're going to add substantially, but I'll say true to what, and this is kind of more toward you, Jim, but true to what SJ has done for so long now. Like this is a tech manual, and like you guys know, Brad and I like Crunchy, absolutely. And like I love like the TNG tech manual is like top of my list. Like right, like that's like I still aspire, and I know this won't happen, but I want to teach a university course someday with the tech manual. Like I just want to teach that course, right? That said, the STA2E tech manual, it's so dense with information and it's narrative start to finish. Right. And so it's just, and I mean, this doesn't surprise us at all because, like, Jim, this is your thing. Like, we know. How many times have we talked to you here on and offline about this? But that's a real feat where it's storytelling the whole way through. I mean, you even peel back the fourth wall numerous times, more than I've seen in previous ones, of, hey, tell stories like this, or hey, you don't have to, whatever. Right? Like, no matter how geeky and deep it gets, it's still like still lit, which is pretty fun to read. Al, you were gonna I cut
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
off.
yeah. I was just going to add that first of all, we were excited when we heard this because we had no idea this was coming, and we kind of just like I thought back to like how awesome the Utopia Planitia guide was, and
Oh
how
yeah.
that we could harken back to the olden days of Trek books. And so we
Hmm.
wanted to do that here as well. But I think like when we had the initial discussion, it was, hey, equipment in 2E is a trait, right? And so how can we make this interesting and informational for people? And that's where we kind of started going with the explanation of what this means within a story, and providing the complication tables that go along with this. As you're telling a story. And then what we quickly realized very early on was this was not just a 2E book. This was a 2E book, this was a 1E book, and this was a captain's log book,
Right.
all mixed into one, and that got us even more excited.
Yeah, I like that that was stated up front too in the manual, like really bringing together, right? Like in my mind, they're the same, like they're the same in the most positive way, like right, they feed each other. But I like that like it was called out directly. Okay, so back to the design stuff, the conceptualization stuff. So it sounds like each of the writers, right? Because we got about half of you here from the project. Each of the writers was assigned, give or take, a chapter, right? You had your focus. But like, was there ever early on, more than just email, was there ever a writing room? Like, how, like, did you get together to kind of break the story, if you will? I mean, don't get me like, Jim, I mean, talk about the puppet master. Like, I know in your head, this is all there and you see how this works, but still, you pulled in like a lot of, I mean, they're all first-rate writers and now designers. Did you guys ever, in whole or in part, like get together over Zoom or whatnot and really break this out high concept? Or was it just, was it just Jim, you knew they would do X, Y, and Z well, and so you send them off? Like that's the kind of stuff that makes me curious.
Alan, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think for this one, I think I came into it with an outline that was pretty tight. And
Hmm.
by working with the leadership team at Modiphius, we use Moscow. Like if you're familiar with Moscow,
I don't know
we're
what that is.
product. What's your must have, what you should have, what you could have, what
Oh,
you won't have. And when you go through Moscow, you're like, okay, we're making this product. What are the things that absolutely must be in this product, or we just don't make it, or we just give up on it and we can't do it? So we had a short bullet list of musts. Okay, and then we were like, okay, so if given the page count, if we could fit more in, what would we fit in? Okay, we could fit in this and this and this. Okay, and then we go on down. And so what you do with the Moscow then is once you come up with a final product, you got the final manuscript, and you're 60 pages over, and you say, well, shoot, what do I cut? You go to the Moscow and say, well, this was a could have. That's the first to go. Then you kill all your you kill all your could haves, and then you get to your shoulds, and that's where it really starts to hurt. I mean, it all hurts, but it really starts to hurt when you get into the shoulds. Like, should this book cover Romulan technology? Should this book cover Klingon technology? And then if you have to start cutting, then you get into the bone, and it really starts to get painful. But we didn't have to go quite that far. Anyway, so in answer to your question, I think I came into this book with a pretty solid outline and a solid Moscow, and I was able to say, okay, I know everybody's talents at this point. And I know I can confidently give Dayton this chapter and this chapter. I can give Al this chapter and this chapter. I'll give Michael this chapter and this chapter. And Aaron, got the rest of it. And then Nathan did the chapter on the mechanics because he's
Right, of
guru
course.
on mechanics. I see no reason not to use him, especially since his schedule is available. And I was like, "Oh, you're available to write 8,000 words on new talents and new career events and stuff, mechanical stuff like that. Okay, I'll use you. Go to work." Because and this is a little. Never mind, I can't talk about it. Okay, it's just budget stuff. But
I was thinking the same thing though about
It
the
was
budget
funny
stuff.
the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny the other day though. I decided whenever I've learned to do this now, whenever a book comes out, I go back and look what I originally submitted because I'm dying to know what got cut, right?
Mhm.
For
Oh,
two
yeah.
selfish reasons. One, I want to know if I can put it on continuing missions, so like, but I can't
No.
because it's already once I'm paid by Paramount, I no longer
Not
own
yours,
it, right?
right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then fortunately though, Jim, and this is for everyone to know, you're not going to lose it because Jim makes sure it gets out there through the Modiphius blog. So the Modiphius
Yeah, right.
blog you're going to see over the past couple years, and especially I think going forward, is going to be the place to get that errata. I don't know if that's the right
Mhm.
word to use for it, errata, or appendix, whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you'll get the full material, which
Or
we
even
didn't
like
have, I guess,
Apocrypha.
Apocrypha,
Yeah,
maybe that's a
ooh.
better word for it. But it's gonna come out. There's some really good stuff in there. I was looking through my chapters I was working on. I was like, oh, that got cut. Oh, that got cut. But Jim assured me that it's still gonna
Okay, so
come out.
let me ask a follow-up to that. Now, I want to, especially given how close Jim came to revealing cookie cutting here.
Can you guys just let me pause? Can
Oh
you
yeah,
tell that that Jace has been like itching for this session?
I've
I
so been
mean,
looking forward to this
literally,
conversation.
he has
I
literally
have. I mean,
been
come on.
jonesing for this.
Well, but we love you guys, and
Yes, we
we love
do.
what you all put out, and you're just all really remarkable, lovely people, and every day on the news makes us so okay. Now Michael less, but every day on the news, it's like increasingly grateful for good people. But I do have a follow-up directly based on what you just said, Michael. Now I want to ask this in a way that like isn't going to lead us where it shouldn't. So okay, so you cut this is all hypothetical. You cut those 60 pages, Jim, right? And but you still own that, right? That's Modiphius's that and we right, you're not going to get rid of that. I'm curious from the standpoint of the writers. So okay, so Michael wrote all of that other stuff, right? 45 extra pages on Klingon houses. Wouldn't surprise me. And which is awesome. Still waiting for yeah, so that was so much fun. Side note, creating my house. That was so much fun, Michael. It was ridiculous. But uh
I'm
so
a
you
little
have
behind
like
on that. Sorry,
I
Michael.
gotta ask. I gotta ask Jim. I'm just gonna ask right now. Are you allowed to say what's gonna come out in blogs, or is that considered
well,
NDA too?
wait. Let me ask my question first because I don't.
Oh,
That
okay. I
might.
thought that was where
I
you're going.
I well
Okay.
no. I was more basic from a writer point of view. So Jim Michael writes like 40 extra pages on Klingons. You have to cut it, Jim, because you've got 128 pages. But of course you have that really good material. Down the road, you find okay, that's perfect for the another book or maybe the next book, whatever it is. I'm curious just from the production aspect, the editing aspect. So is that the kind of thing where like you reach out to the writer, or is it just you put it in when it comes out, you let the writer know, right? Because you already have it, and assuming you don't want them to like revise it, but you have all of that extra content, a lot of which probably makes its way in. I'm just curious from the project management standpoint, like how do you handle that with the writers? I know they've been paid and all that, but like it, with what they wrote.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, not to sound mercenary,
No.
but once the writer delivers their manuscript and it's edited and it's approved by Paramount
Yeah.
and the writer gets paid,
Yeah.
they're done.
Right.
They're out of the loop.
Right.
That content is now owned by CBS Studios, whether we use it or not. Right? I could have cut all of
Yep.
Michael's content and said, "Hey, sorry, we had to cut the whole chapter."
Mhm.
And there's not anything he can do about it. And not to say that in a negative way. It's just like that content is now owned by Paramount.
Yeah.
It's out of our hands. But as a courtesy, I do try to tell my writers, okay, we had to cut, X amount of pages, but don't worry, I'm going to repurpose it into a blog. Or if I can find another product
Yeah.
downstream to fit it into, I'll do that. In fact, Nathan, because he is the 2D20 guru at
Mhm.
Modiphius, and he's written for so many games, he has so much content available that he can port into Star Trek Adventures or in his head that he can dump
Oh,
out.
yeah.
So, he actually the chapter that he wrote for the technical manual, he overwrote,
Sure.
but only because he just had all this great content, and he
Mhm.
just, he gave me a ton of content. And I
Mhm.
was like, I love all of it. I can't possibly fit it all into the book, so
Mhm.
we're gonna chop that chapter, and maybe
Mhm.
I'll use it for a future book,
Right.
TBD,
Yeah.
and just did, I used as much as I could to make it fit the book's narrative because you talked
Yeah.
earlier that there's a narrative through this book and I
Yeah.
wanted to honor that. And some of the stuff like was good content, but it
Mhm.
didn't quite gel with the rest of it, so it got moved. And I was like, I think this will be a better blog post than it would be a subchapter in this particular book, and that's just a judgment call that I
Yeah.
have to make as a project
Yeah.
manager and
Yeah.
line editor. But yeah, as far as the content, I know Michael
That's
said, "Oh,
good.
can I just put it on my blog?" It's like, well, no, because Paramount owns it, and
Right.
I want to reuse it somewhere so that you can at
Right.
least get your stuff out there.
Mhm.
Um, and I will add, in total transparency, and I think Brad will appreciate this, the fact that the book came in so much over is a fault on the project manager, right? Because I did my best learning how to do second edition versus first edition because again, getting into the technical weeds, when you have a page laid out in InDesign, depending on your margins, your font choices, your headers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you can put a different amount of words on that page than you can in a different kind of layout, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so we made, obviously, I mean, just by looking at the pages, you can tell that the first edition layout and the second edition layout very different,
Mhm.
right? The average number of words we can put on a page in second edition is different than first edition, and I'm we um there is no good way to estimate that until you do it, right? That's why we had to go through the core book. We had to go through the exercises of all these books, learning how to do it over again. And so when I commissioned the tech manual, I still had the first edition formulas in my head. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
commissioned more words than I needed, but I didn't know until we got to layout. So it was a year until I figured it out. And
Mhm.
so now with the other books that are coming out in the next, X number of months and years,
Mhm.
I've been dialing that. I've been tweaking those dials. So like the next book that's in layout, I cut less out of that than I did the tech manual because
Nice.
I'm dialing in.
Yeah.
And the book after that, think I'm going to cut even less because I was continuing to dial it in. So as a project manager, I'm still learning how second edition works from a in the weeds technical point of view. And hopefully I'll get to the sweet spot where I commission the right number of words and I won't have to cut anything, right? The writers will be sad because they won't be writing as much as they used to, but the stuff that they write is probably going to get into the book untouched. I mean, it'll be edited, but it won't be chopped down like it has been before. And then I'll just have to write more blog posts, or I'll have to get Nathan to write more blog posts, and that's a small that's a small problem to have. So I mean this is all just the nature of the print business and making it happen is that process of discovery, me realizing, oh yeah, the formula's changed and I didn't even think about it because this is the first time I've worked on a second edition of anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I would say I would add also from the freelancer perspective, um, we were working on this book a year ago, a year and a half ago.
Right.
And so, like Michael said, to see what was of our own stuff was cut, we have to go back to our original manuscripts and even because, to be honest, we're on to other projects as well, right? And so
Yeah.
those projects are now at the forefront of our mind. And I knew which chapters I wrote for this, but could not remember to the extent at which I wrote for each of these chapters, right? Because now I'm 6 projects past
Oh,
this. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Between Sentience and Once Upon and the other Trek stuff, like it,
I want to just, we've talked about this before with each one of you, but I want to hit this again, that it's impressive that you were all working on this a year and a half ago. We've been talking for a year and a half, and the ability just to compartmentalize and
Hmm.
keep it to
That's a good way to put
yourself,
it. Hmm.
you know, and maintain that NDA and that secrecy and everything like that. It's impressive. It's hard to do. It's
Yeah, getting
very
paid
hard
to
to
shut
do.
up works really well in life, I found.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, we all have worked in the corporate world in one form or another. Or
Not me. I avoided that whole plague.
yeah, I guess. But yeah, you're special. Um, but
Well,
ultimately, but you've worked in environments where you've had to work in situations where you've had to keep
well, I mean,
secrets.
clinically, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, of course. Yeah.
Whether they're HIPAA or NDA, you've had to keep things
Hmm.
like that. And it's just,
Hmm.
I still find that impressive, because in today's day and age where everyone posts everything online the
Yeah.
minute after it comes
Yeah.
out,
Well,
to
especially
me, that's just,
given
you know,
how like active all of you are on social media, and like Jim, I mean, my God, you're everywhere on social media on behalf of STA, right?
yeah.
And constantly responding to readers and gamers and fans. And yeah, I agree. It's just you provide so much information, but it's always within that box, right? That is definitely a skill to be learned.
Can I sidebar just on that note alone? The hints that you were giving out on the Facebook group
That was
were
so good.
were phenomenal. What When you decided to do that, the clues
Big
that you were
grid.
giving, yeah, what made you decide to do that? One, and two, the path
Yeah,
you
that's a good
took,
question.
which
Yeah.
was, if I remember correctly, you were hinting towards, you were giving people, if I Jason, I think, told this to me because I didn't get
Well,
this.
someone figured it. One of the
Yeah,
guys on the
season
start,
3, episode 14s, right?
12s. Yeah,
4, 3,
yeah.
14. Um, is that right? Did I have it? Or 12, was it?
What?
12, 12.
Yeah, but
3,
that
12.
was
Thank you.
so clever.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, clever. What was the mindset behind doing that? I just have to,
Great
if
question.
you're
Yeah.
willing to, talk about it, maybe
wait,
you are.
before he even goes there, we didn't know
Yeah.
that he was going to be doing this. He didn't tell us. So it started getting us excited.
That's
So much
awesome.
so that I took the day off from work for reveal day because I knew everyone was so excited and I wanted to interact with people online. So, yeah, Jim, where'd you come up with it?
So I mean, Al just told you, I am so good at compartmentalizing that I compartmentalize with the closest freelancers that I work with, right? I just, even though they're working on the book, I still keep it here.
Hmm. Hmm.
As much as I can. Like I'll drop some stuff sometimes, and like I get tired of being the only person who sees everything. And so sometimes I'll send Al and Michael and some of the other folks like a little screenshot of some of the art that's in progress, or
Of
just a
course.
little bits and bobs here, just to get them excited, right? Just to say, hey, look at this cool shit that cool stuff that we're making. Excuse me, isn't this great? And I don't have anybody to share this with, like, because like my partner
Yeah.
appreciates that I enjoy what I do, but she's not passionate about the,
Man, was that well said.
you know? And my son's 9. He doesn't care about any of this stuff. He just knows I'm a YouTuber and he's excited about that.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so I think we've talked on many of your shows in the past where I work on this game all the time, right? Like it's
Right.
constantly on my mind. I'm doing edits in the middle of the night. I'm doing art briefs. I'm doing stuff on the weekends. It's like don't tell my manager that I don't work the weekends.
Yeah. Air quotes.
Um, but so I don't know. There was somewhere in the throes of finalizing the book and getting it off to print, I was like, okay, um, I want to do some just fun little tweaking with the fans because I've been on social media with these guys with the folks for so long now. You
Yeah.
mentioned it. I think they trust me and I trust them, and I've got a
Hmm.
good rapport with the fans on Discord and Reddit and the Facebook groups and stuff. And I was like, how about we have some fun? I knew what the release date, I knew what the pre-order release date was going to be. It was going to be March 12th. And I was like, what can I do with March 12th that would be fun for the fans to like kind of figure out? And I came up with this half-baked idea. Again, this was like 1 o'clock in the morning because I was editing the next book and I was like, okay, I need a break because I'm like my eyes are glazing over and I just needed something to do. And like that, the small hours of the night are when I get my best ideas or worst ideas that I think are great. So I had this idea, well, why don't I go through episodes that were season 3, episode 12? Because that's kind of funny, like episode 3,
Hmm.
312, so 312. Okay, there's that whole numerology thing. And I did my research and I was like, okay, so 6 of the series actually had a third season and had 12 episodes. Like Lower
Yep,
Decks
yep,
was
yep,
out
yep.
because they
Yeah.
only did 10 episodes. Stranger Worlds was out because they've only done 2 seasons. And Picard was out because they only did 10 episodes in their
Hmm.
season. So I was like, okay, so I got these 6. And what I'll do is I'll take a screenshot from each episode that actually focuses on some piece of technology from that episode, right? To kind of give the fans a couple of things to think about. First of all, why this episode? Are they going to make the connection that it's 312 over and over and over again? And are they going to pick up on the fact that it's a piece of technology? Because maybe trying to get them around to thinking about it as a tech book. And then I didn't have any particular order of which ones I was going to start throwing out there. And I just started doing it. Actually, you know what? Before I did that, I went to my marketing manager, April, or the social media manager, April,
Hmm.
and then to Sharif, who's one of the marketing guys. I was like, "Hey guys, I got this crazy idea for marketing," and I went on a spiel on our chat for a few minutes, and they were both like, "I don't get it." I was like, "Okay, this is
Oh
awesome.
God.
I'll do this, and I'll do this, and I'll do this." And they're like, okay. And I was like, I think it'll get some fan engagement. What do you think? And they're like, okay, give it a try. And they were nonplussed. They didn't really know what to expect, which is fine. It was, inside I was crushed because like, oh, no one gets it. And that's okay. But I also accepted that it was a stupid idea at 2 o'clock in the morning, and who knows how it would hit, right? I don't know. But then I started posting it, and fans started responding to it, which is exactly what I wanted. Is I wanted them to be talking about the game,
Yep.
because at this point, the starter set came out 2 months ago. That's almost, I mean, that's old news, right? That might as well have come out a year ago. Just the way how fast fans want new stuff and
Yeah.
move on to other things because there's just so many distractions now, not even counting the current, social and political world that we're in right now. There's just a ton of distraction out
Hmm.
there right now, right? If you're trying to make a game and sell something. So I was like, how do we get some conversation going? So I just started throwing out these screenshots every few days just to see what happens. And the fans, to their credit, came up with some amazing connections that I didn't even see. It was like, oh yeah, maybe, oh yeah, yeah. Like, because I think we did High Ground and like 2 other episodes that were all related to terrorism
Right.
and like kidnapping and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's not the direction I wanted to go. Okay, I'll just keep going. And eventually, somebody on Facebook was like, I think it's a book. I think it's a book about technology that we haven't seen yet. And then somebody on Discord a couple days later was like, oh, this is the 4th time it's an episode from the 3rd season, episode 12. So maybe it's something there's about 312. And going back to that compartmentalization, I didn't want to tip my hand. So I just kept throwing screenshots out there and just didn't say anything about yes or no or oh, you're getting closer, you're getting warmer.
Yep.
Because I didn't want to tweak fans that much, right? Like I want to throw it out there and see what happens. Because I remember, years ago when we were trying to do more marketing for the game, like if we kept teasing stuff long enough, fans started getting pissed off. They were like, "Okay,
Right.
I'm tired of the teases. Just tell us what the damn thing is so we can get on with it." It's like so there's a balancing point of like where you can do too much or you can do not enough and then you do it just right. So I don't know if it worked out, but I'm glad to hear you guys enjoyed it. I'll have to do something different for the next one because now, this was
Yeah, yeah, you can't
this
reuse
time
that.
I got to do something
Well,
different.
I don't know if I don't know. I mean, you can. I think it's worthwhile. You can use screenshots of shows and all that, and just
Yeah.
find a different tie. I think it was a cute way to a neat way to get people engaged, and you
It
did
was a
it.
successful strategy.
Mm.
Yeah, and you did it at the right time so that it was early enough that you got people talking, but it wasn't so early that people got annoyed. Like you said, if you go too far ahead, people will get irritated
Right.
because then you're promising. That's with you're a PM, you know how this works. If you go too far ahead before product launch, and ultimately, people get irritated because they're waiting for the product and they're not getting it.
Right. Yeah.
But you didn't go so close that you didn't get enough time to really tease it.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why it makes me laugh when fans say, I wish you would tell us like a year in advance what products are coming. And it's like, well, no, I'm not going to tell you a year in advance because you'll forget in 6 months. And then
yeah,
it'll come out in, 12 months and you'll be like, oh, I didn't know this was coming out. And it's like, well, we
I
told you
think with some
a year
Or
ago.
they'll
with
have a
some
bunch of
games, with some
or they'll
games, I
have a
think you
bunch
could
of
do it.
ideas. Yeah,
Some
or they'll have a bunch of
Yeah.
ideas that could not get incorporated. And then they'll get mad when it comes out because you don't listen to the fans, So
Right, right.
fans are,
But you're right.
I'm a super
Certain,
fan. We're a finicky, fickle, and
yeah,
a lot.
certain
I
games.
think with some IPs you could do that. I think there are some IPs that may allow for that,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I don't know if personally. I've thought about it because I know there are some games that I like that do provide for that.
Mhm.
But there's also some games out there that have done that and consistently, not anyone that we've interacted with through our podcast, but there are games out there that consistently miss it.
Yeah.
Um, Not that you guys would, but because they've done that, they don't have goodwill with their fan base. Um,
To come back to the writing for a moment here,
Boy,
and
you just cut me off, didn't you? Way to go there,
you
Chief.
you paused. We're good. So to come back to the writing for a sec,
He's all giddy. He's all giddy
well,
like a
we're
schoolgirl.
talking about, yeah, well, yes, House on Fire. So to
I
talk
know.
about so this is, I mean, we're all familiar with the classic Star Trek tech manuals, and especially especially the TOS and the TNG, like those were very techy, excuse me, very techy manuals. Like I was introduced to the TOS manual when I was in a high school, and like that glorious book, that's what took me from being someone who really loved, like, the TOS movies, because that's what I grew up on. That's what took me from that to like, this is a lot of fun, this is really cool, to like, I'm in it. Like, this is an entire world, right? But those were very techy. Yeah, very techy and very tricky. But you guys all then wrote a tech manual, like we said before, that's really, really detailed, super geeky, delightful, but obviously has a very different feel of an actual tech manual, right? It's a tech manual, but you can sit down and read it, right? Like, one of the first things I did was sit down and read the bit on diplomacy. It was like, oh my God, we're how many decades, right? We're pushing 6 decades of Star Trek, and how many diplomatic episodes, and like Star Trek 6, come on. And like, someone finally wrote like, oh, by the way, this is huge in Star Trek and you can play this. Really cool. But I'm curious, like, for all of you guys, like, how did you make the transition as writers from, okay, I'm writing a technical document, which is a different animal, to I'm writing about really technical stuff, but I'm writing it in prose and I want it to be narrative and all that. Like, how do you make that jump, like, as writers?
I mean, I go back to the goal that I kind of set out when I write, and I think Jim wants us to do too, is that every line needs to be its own potential encounter. So I did the part on diplomacy or diplomatic assets that you were talking about,
Nicely done. Yeah.
Jason. I just love the HR of Star Trek, So with that, um, there's this stuff doesn't come out of nowhere. Like what happens in Star Trek doesn't come out of anywhere. I really do a lot of research with how the United Nations does stuff.
Hmm.
In this case, how they do search and rescue, answering distress calls, responding to disasters. So I'll
Hmm.
do all kinds of research on like how does the World Health Organization respond
Yeah.
to a disaster, and so yes, it's technical, but it's practical. And so I
Okay.
think what happened before is because we're encouraging game masters and players to learn how to tell stories. So you have to give
Hmm.
them the power to be technical yet practical. So I change my language to find real world comparisons if possible and make it digestible. And I think that makes it so all of a sudden you're empowering game masters and players to be like, whoa, I could actually work in fleet. It's not beyond me. So it's really
Yeah,
dignifying the
yeah.
players, in my opinion. I just want to dignify people when I
Nice.
write. So yes, I love technobabble. It's one of my favorite things to play, but you have to get it so that now all the players and game masters are at the writers' table.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's really all about accessibility, I think. Like those tech manuals, there's a lot of really cool information, but sometimes they're buried under
Yeah,
walls and walls of text, right?
absolutely.
And I've been doing a lot of research into dyslexia and dysgraphia recently,
Yeah.
and you know, shorter paragraphs, lots of breaks, change in color. It makes the text more accessible to
Hmm.
people that have difficult scanning pages,
Hmm.
identifying words, and so on and so forth. So that was kind of the way that I looked at it. We used the tech manuals as a reference for sure,
Yeah, I was wondering.
uh, but I had to like pull out the key bits and then tie those together in just like 3 to 5 sentences, and then move on to the next bit. That was kind of my goal, just for an accessibility standpoint.
Well, and you guys, like Jim, you had mentioned a while ago now in this conversation that one of the beautiful things of the manual is like it's up well it's basically it's up to date as of a year ago, which is just about up to date in Trek, right? And in terms of future tech and tools in Trek, it's essentially totally up to date until Starfleet Academy comes out, right? Because that's future.
Yeah.
But you've got Prodigy, you've got Picard, like just incredible. But like a
I
lot
want to
of
add one.
oh yeah.
Sorry, Jason. I just
No,
want to
no,
add one
go.
other thing to what Al said too. Though we have to realize that we're living in the day of the internet and ChatGPT. So if a player or a game master said, "Hey, what is a universal translator?" They can get Memory Alpha or
Right.
they can get ChatGPT to spit that out. So I think what how I'm like I try to teach people to fish. So it's like, hey,
Yeah.
here's overall what it is. But then Jim made sure to credit in the book. If you look at the very back page the actual technical manuals, or not the actual technical manual, the other technical manuals that were there. So we want to recognize
Yeah.
that people can go online to get all the detail if they want more, but
Hmm.
let's whet their appetite with this and point them in the right direction.
Okay, but so actually, so pairing, going back to that, like coming off of that, so there's obviously I mean, it's the future, so how can I say the future? But there's a lot of the future tech, right? Like, because you guys, again, you cover all the way through Prodigy, and of course, we've seen some of this stuff on screen, but like, there hasn't been a ton written, of course, right? Because there just hasn't been time, and you cover a lot of that so delightfully, and obviously not just technically, but like narratively that what reading through it to me that suggests a lot of creation on your part, obviously adhering to the quote unquote rules that we've seen on the screen, and obviously it went through Paramount, so like they gave them a premature, but I'm always curious reading that stuff when you guys make it of how much like how hard is that? How much conceptual lifting is that when you're talking about, the protostar and the protostar drive stuff like that, like it's not like you can like yeah, you can go fishing for that, but there's not going to be a ton out there and most of it's not very good. And yet you have to still sort of color within those lines, right? Because you don't know where it's going to go right on screen. What's it like writing that stuff? How do you do it? How do you balance that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, when I was looking, because I did the medical and engineering, Jim kind of gave me a gift because there's lots of technobabble that goes around those things, and there's a lot of words that are used in dialogue that represent tools, but you don't ever really get to see what those tools are doing. So you have to kind of take what the explanation is or what the name is for that tool and come up with what it's being used for. So I had to do that quite a few times. I bounced some stuff off of Michael. I bounced some stuff off of Aaron. And we came up, what's a spanner doing, and what's a neural transducer doing, and things like that. Just based off of because the jargon that they put together, the words make sense. They have meaning, right? So now we just have to figure out, well, how does that apply to medicine or how does that apply to
Hmm.
engineering? And so there was a lot of creation in there in that we were finally giving a use to something that's only ever really had a name.
Nice.
And, fortunately, to its credit, Star Trek has always been based off of real science,
Yeah.
and then putting that science fiction lens on it and saying, okay, well, what if we take it to the next level? What if we take it to the next degree? What can we imagine next, right? And I think Aaron has always been a great sounding board for all of us to say, hey, we've got situation X or we've got item X. What does that look like in 1,000 years or 500 years? Like what science things are happening now, like on the bleeding cutting edge, that are going to be commonplace in 200 years, and how do we write to that? But fortunately, Star Trek, like we've talked about before, even though it's had hundreds of writers and science experts and everything, it's been remarkably consistent for 60 years now, right? From
Yeah.
the original series all the way out to now. And stuff works for the most part the same, whether it's Enterprise or Discovery 32nd Century, which made it great for this book, because like, you know what? A phaser's a phaser, a tricorder's a tricorder. We don't have to go down into the weeds about how the circuit boards are made or how the minutia is done. Like, there's other technical manuals for that, and we love them for it, but we don't have the page count to go into that kind of detail. And going back to what you were saying about the narrative, for your story, it's not that important,
Right.
really. Like, you just make it up, but you do throw some technical babble at, move on. So yeah, I think absolutely we're trying to be science fiction writers, and we're trying to be futurists, and we're trying to think about how could this stuff work plausibly. But then specifically for the purposes of this book, the mandate that I gave everybody was like, we want to explain it enough so that people get it. They're like, okay, I know what this thing does. I know what I can do with it. Here's the complication table. I can figure out how to break it if a complication comes up in the game.
Yeah.
And that's enough, right? We don't have to go into 20 pages about the EPS conduits and go from there. Like, we know they're there, but the next gen technical manual
Right.
grew out of the writer's manual that
Hmm.
they used internally to help writers. Okay, I've got this thing. I need to break it for the dramatic purposes for my story. How do I do that? And Michael and Rick were like, "We're tired." I don't know that they said we're tired of answering these questions, but they probably said, "Let's take the writer's manual and like pump it up to 11 and make it even more comprehensive and give writers a ton of detail to say, here's all the different things you could. Here's how the things work to a deep level, and now here's ways you could break it, right?" And we didn't need to go there for this book because it's been done already, and we wanted to go a different route. Specifically, Jason and Brad, what you were saying earlier in the show is getting into that narrative, and I think you've talked about how that evolution has happened through the line over the last several
Hmm.
years, and especially with second edition. When I got my hands on second edition, I really wanted to push into the narrative even further, and I think that's why we started using the character sidebars introducing each chapter.
Yeah.
I think having that conversational tone, pulling the reader in, and not just saying, "Here's all this information," right? It's like someone's going to guide you through this information. We're going to talk about it. We're going to guide you into it. We're going to ease you into the topic, talk about it in a conversational style, give you some sidebars that are going to be hitting on the topics, and not overwhelm you with minutia, but give you tons of ideas, right? Here's things that you could do in your game. Here's things that you can do with your character. And fortunately, my writers have embraced that, which I knew they would, because we were all going down
Right.
that path even when we did the player's guide and game master guide. I think really that was the first place where we really
Yeah.
started saying, hey, we can do more with this game than what we're doing with it right now. Let's really start steering the Titanic over to the narrative side of things. And I think you're seeing that. I mean, I hope so anyway. The technical manual is really intentional about that. And I think, a big part of it is you two guys. Having talked with you two for a couple of years now, and really, really embracing the idea of RPGs as literature,
That's cool.
and knowing that we wanted to target this book to casual Star Trek fans as well as hardcore
Yeah.
gamers. I was
Yeah.
like, this is an opportunity for us to show Star Trek technology in a different way than we've seen before, and and make it literary, I guess, for lack of a better
Yeah.
term.
Yeah. Every time I
This
pick
is
up,
another
oh,
this is another point of entry to the game. I
yeah.
mean, if someone doesn't have a core rule book or captain's log, first edition, whatever, they may pick up this technical manual, look through it. They'll see some of the gaming aspects of the book. Um, grab the quick start from the website. Um, whatever the case is, may go out and even grab the starter set, whatever the case may be. But I see when I saw this, when I started looking into it, I saw this as yet another
Mm.
means of entry to the ecosystem for folks. Um, and to me, every time I see another point of entry to the game, ingress point,
Okay, wait,
it
why,
just
Jim?
fascinates me because
Why are you smiling with ecosystem? Something Brad said
you know,
just turned you on about that.
No, I appreciate that he noticed it, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
think we're trying to be very intentional, or I mean, we try to be really intentional, even way back when we did the Klingon core book, right? We knew that was an opportunity to do two things, right? We wanted to give the system a little bit of a refresh. We
yeah,
wanted to break the Klingon curse, and we wanted to provide another a path of entry into the game because I mean we knew it was a fun game and people were enjoying it. We just wanted to get more people into it, and like how do we do that? Core book,
mhm,
by default for any RPG, core book's going to be your number one gateway in. So anytime you can do a new core book without pissing off your fan base that you're doing too many editions too quickly, right? So we did a quick start for the Klingon book, and we did a quick start, which is another point of entry, and the core book. So that was immediately when we decided let's do Klingon, we created two instant points of entry by doing a quick start and a core book, and we did it again with the tricorder digest, right? Because
right,
that tricorder was not only tapping into the original series fans, but that was another slight refinement of the rule set and a complete refresh of the layout, right? So that was another point of entry.
mhm,
And so I think uh, buying
Captain's Log is another one.
and Captain's Log absolutely was another way to get into it, kind of like a side door. It wasn't
mhm,
a back door. It was like is this is similar to first edition, but not quite. It's a little more streamlined. It's a little hopefully easier to get into, but it's also here's a ton of information about the franchise. So hey, maybe you don't know anything about Star Trek, but hey, we're gonna hit you with 70 pages of setting lore right up front. So
Mhm.
here's a primer on Star Trek. Now you know. And so we did I mean, I took that exact same philosophy for second edition and said, okay, we want to aim this at new gamers in addition to our hardcore fans, but
right,
really we want to get new gamers because that's the
yeah,
only way to keep a game alive is to keep getting new people into it and playing it and running it. So we did the quick start and we did the core book, and that's two more points of entry.
mhm,
And then just in the course of talking about second edition products and knowing what came up in the first swath of new products, like we thought, okay, we should really try to figure out how do we make each product you know, a part of the line
mhm,
and a meaningful supplement to the line, but also kind of make it another path of entry,
yeah.
right? Because
Well,
like I think some of our books, like why would you buy it if you weren't playing the game,
right.
right? Like it's I mean, sure, it's cool, but like I would play the game, so why would I buy the command source book? I mean, it's got some cool lore in it, but it's mostly
So,
mechanical.
a free idea for all of you: when Star Trek Starfleet Academy drops, we got a couple years, new gamers, Star Trek Adventures, the drinking game. It'll sell itself.
Don't, but they have a card game that you could easily. I'm not
No, no, no.
advocating, but
Oh,
one could, in
uh,
theory,
so,
utilize a card game.
it's going to be Synthahol. It'll be totally harmless.
Yeah.
Something we haven't that we should at least just acknowledge, and it's a big deal in each of the books, but I do think it's narratively highly relevant, from a writing standpoint. The artwork the artwork in this one. I mean, I don't know how you guys keep doing it, especially Jim with what you're commissioning, and because I know you give your artists a lot of direction and feedback, but it's even better than the last one. And maybe I'm just reading into it. So you if this is just blatantly incorrect, you'll tell me. But the artwork in the tech manual felt slightly more narratively in tune and relevant. Like every okay, good. You guys are nodding. Like I mean, I've like the artwork is gorgeous across the book. So I like every iteration it's a little better. But this one, like there wasn't eye candy. It never felt to me, not even once in the tech manual, that this is here because it's a good place for it, but it was appropriate for that piece of that chapter and help to explain it or move it. That's how I read it.
Mhm.
You're nodding.
No, absolutely. I think I'm glad that you caught that. I don't know that your average gamer would necessarily pick up on that. I could be wrong. I mean, I don't
Mhm.
know. And I think a lot of that, in very, very big part, is over the last few years, me and my art director, Ariel Oye,
Mhm.
getting more comfortable working together, getting more familiar with how we each work, and me continually learning from him as far as like who he is as a person and what he likes to do and his backstory and all that great stuff. And as I've continued to work with him, we have grown to a point where we both recognize that it's really important to tell stories, right?
Yeah.
Like I tell my stories through prose, he tells his story through artwork and animation and illustration. And that's great, right? Because there was a learning curve of us like I want to tell stories. I want the artwork to tell stories too, right? And I think we really, one good example of that is the core book, the standard edition artwork. Initially, that artwork was just the iconic characters on a field or in that field, right? And we came to the realization that okay, we need to have all these characters in different uniforms so that we can properly present the franchise on the cover and not
Yeah.
have them all
Yeah.
be in Strange New Worlds uniforms. We
Yeah.
needed
Love
to
it.
show that diversity. And then we got the sketch back, and I was like, there's something missing, right? We've got all these iconic characters on the front cover and all these different uniforms. Why? What's the story here? There's no story. And so Ariel and I went back and forth and we talked to our brand guys and we were okay, we need a story here though. Even if it's just a suggestion of a story, why are all these characters in different uniforms on the cover of this book? Like what sure it's marketing, right? And we're trying to market the
Right.
fact
Yeah.
that but like let's put that conceit aside. What's the story here? And just by coming up with the idea of putting the Guardian of Forever on the back cover with Carl tipping his hand, that at least suggested, okay, these characters have been through an adventure, a time travel adventure of some sort, because clearly they're all coming back to this one place and they're
Mhm.
all in different uniforms with the technology and they're trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And I was like, okay, and Ariel really latched onto that. Once we figured out, let's put the Guardian of Forever on there, he was like, oh yeah, we need to be telling more stories with our artwork. And so he started really getting more creative with his not that he wasn't already creative. We got collectively we got even more creative with the core book artwork and the toolkit artwork and even the starter set artwork. And partly because I had great writers writing the three parts of the starter set, and I gave them the freedom to write some art briefs. And I know we talked about that in
Oh,
a
cool. Yeah.
different
Yeah. We have. Yeah.
and then going into the technical manual, then I said, Ariel, keep doing this, right? Keep telling stories. And he'd throw, you know, he and I would be throwing ideas back and forth over email. And in fact, there was one he said, hey Jim, for the medical chapter, can we have a piece of art for the chapter opener with a character getting hurt? And can we have that same character in another piece of art later in the chapter
Nice.
getting a new leg? Can we tell that little story
Oh.
across
Oh, I
multiple
didn't notice
artwork,
that.
right? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And let's see if we can, let's see if any fans will pick up on it. Now, of course, I just told everybody, but so if you look in the book, some of the artwork connects to other pieces of
Yeah.
artwork, right?
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
so if you're paying attention, you'll start seeing these little connections. So, you know, not only are the sidebars like like I had Dayton write a bunch of sidebars, one sidebar for each chapter. And
Hmm.
if you read just those sidebars tell a story. So there's a story woven throughout the book.
Yep.
But also, there's little stories woven into each of the pieces of artwork too, including those two pieces in the medical book, because we use the same characters, you know, showing
Hmm.
the after, and we just want to do more of that. And Ariel is totally on board for doing that. And I think in some of the other books we've got coming up, you'll see more of that, where
That's cool.
we wanted and he even came to me and he said, I think we, because you know, again, this is into the sausage making. When you're making a book like this, we can commission so many pieces of art based on our budget,
Mhm.
but we need so many pieces of art more than that for the book to fill out the layout, right? So we're always reusing certain pieces of artwork. You know,
Oh, yeah.
we may have like 30 new pieces, but we'll have to reuse 30 pieces, and that's why you see pieces of art pop up from time to time. But in the years that I worked with Ariel, like he and I were really, really familiar with our body of of work that was available to us. And he said, Jim, we're reusing this art too many times. We've got to get some fresh art in here. And I'm
Mhm.
like, yep, 100%, totally agree with you. We're gonna figure out a way to increase the art budget. And he really loves the slice of life stuff, right? Like characters hanging around a briefing room
Yes.
talking,
100%.
people hanging out in a cafeteria talking, people hanging out in a sick bay talking. Yeah, that
Hmm.
stuff is great because that shows you the reality of an RPG, right? I mean, sure, you'll be especially a Star Trek RPG. You'll be, you know, you can certainly show folks, you know, doing the phaser fights and the bat'leth fights, and you can have the ships doing the pew pew, and that's great, right? That's expected from a Star Trek game and even a science fiction RPG. But Star Trek, I mean, has always been focused on the characters first, character first, and then all the cool science fiction stuff second. And so we need to show these characters doing stuff in the
Yeah.
books that your characters are likely going to be doing. Because, like, you know, I don't know about your RPG sessions, but my main character have spent a lot of time in the ready room, a lot of time in sick bay, and a lot of time in the cafeteria just jawing with other characters. And, you know, sure, we spend time on the bridge, but I want to
Mhm.
see more of those slice of life things. And I think we see it sometimes on the shows, right? They sometimes they'll drop in a little like cold open where
Yep.
the characters are
Yep.
doing
Yep.
something completely unrelated to the plot, and that's the kind of stuff that really pulls you in. That's where you get the really cool character bits. But I'm going to stop talking because I know I'm talking too much. And I want to hear Al and Michael's perspectives on this too. Is I'm glad that you love the artwork. I just love everything that Ariel and his team are doing, because like his artists are really comfortable with us now, and that he's got a good connection with his artists, and you can see that in the stuff that's coming in. But
We've
like Michael, I mean, just to you, I'll ask your question. I know you are probably the one freelancer who's most vocal about saying that you like to go through the books and pull artwork and then write stories around that artwork. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's what's really cool is I mean just the evolution of art briefs. Again, we could do entire TV show, sorry, entire podcast just about the evolution of the art. But to me, I think that sparks the imagination. I like one of the things that was done. You'll see in the technical manual, but you'll really see through 2E throughout is they really try to even out the eras that are represented in the manuals and the guides now. One of the things I did on our, like anyone who watches Continued Conversations and sees us play the USS Challenger games, we kind of do a play example for new players to watch. I was able to go through and scrape and pull pictures of all the TOS level costumes, S&W costumes, and integrate those into our game. And if I can, the whole picture, can I drop that in as one of our adventures? So I think people should not just view the art as eye candy, and maybe they should look at it like, what can I do to enhance my player experience and integrate some of this artwork? Because I know when I throw up art for my players, they actually do study it and discuss it and talk about it and look at the details. And a picture is worth 10,000 words. So yeah, my first purview through the book before I even read the books is just going through and looking at the artwork. And then I start reading the book, but the artwork definitely stands on its own.
I never thought of looking at the artwork in the book and then in effect generating stories or generating from that. That blows my mind, honestly. Just using that as material for world building in itself.
Saves a lot of time, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
wow.
literature in general. I mean, I know we think of it as like writing that's been written down, but like there are adult picture books that tell entire stories without words, right? And I think that like we encapsulate that in a lot of these images. And I'm glad that you brought this up, Jason, because I was about to go into that as well. And I think it's important to recognize that, you know, as a lot of people are afraid to go in and be a GM because they don't know if they can create a
Yeah.
story to talk people through. I guarantee you that anyone can look at one of these pieces of art and tell me a story about it, right?
Yeah.
And that is literacy, right? That is being able to tell a story. And so I love that we got them in there. I love that in 2E we've got the artist's name right there.
Yes.
So that, you know, especially if other project managers are looking for
Mhm.
artists, they can jump on board and help these artists out. It shows that we're avoiding the AI and all that stuff. So
Yep.
I just think I'm glad that you brought it up because the art is just it's breathtaking.
Can I
Oh,
ask if I can ask? This is a little bit of the, I won't use my original term. Let's talk about making the salad instead of making, yeah. Okay. Um, for Michael and Al, because we talked about this early on, and Jim, we've actually talked about this in episodes with you. Michael, we may have talked about this a little bit, but with you working on multiple projects, this and whatever else may be going on out there, how do you all, and again, this might be too granular for some, but for me, I find it fascinating as someone who has to juggle
Mhm.
stuff, and not always doing it well. How do you manage yourself, task driven, manage all these tasks and projects? Because, I see what you're doing on LinkedIn because we're connected out there. I see what you're doing on Facebook because we're connected there. Same thing with you, Al. I
Yeah.
don't know how you keep up with everything. How do you manage that kind of stuff? How do you do
Yeah.
that? I mean, what are
Yeah.
your tools?
Yeah, I mean, I live by my calendar, so if anything, if it's not on my calendar, it just doesn't happen. That's for both personal and work. So, yeah, even my wife knows, put it on my calendar, or I will surely claim not to have known and not be prepared for this event whatsoever. So, and in addition, as a writer, I know how many words I can write per day, and so
Okay.
that the minute I get an assignment and I'm told how many word count, I'm able to look at my calendar and look at how many days I have or evenings or mornings to work on it.
Yeah.
And I actually block it off on my calendar. So it sets those goals for me. So, like right now, um, I'm gonna say I don't ignore what I'm about to say, Jim. I'm at capacity almost, where I'm at now. But allow me to turn down the work before you don't offer it to me. That's all I'm saying. But I'm able to look at my calendar and be like, whoa, if all these projects have to line up and these are the
Yeah.
deadlines for them, I'm going to be having one busy July through December. So I actually put it on my calendar so I can be realistic because I never want to disappoint and I want to beat deadline. That's my goal, is to beat deadline. That gives time for editing or to
Yeah.
cover someone else's work who can't beat deadline is kind of my goal. So that's how I work. So live off the calendar and know how many words I can pump out each day.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
Wow.
I don't really go day by day. I planned it out weeks at a time. So like this week I need to have 2,500 words done. But daily I try to find 20 to 30 minutes a day just to write something
mhm.
that has
Mhm.
to do with
Mhm.
gaming. Because that's my happy time. That's my mental health time. I'm an educator and it's a very stressful job, and I get a 45-minute prep, and you better bet that 20 minutes of that I'm going to be writing
Cool.
something. So maybe even longer when I can. Um, and so if I know that something came up and I had a meeting that I need to go to or something like that, I just know that I have to make it up the next day. But yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, luckily it's still fun. It doesn't feel like a job, right? In fact, I've had probably a dozen kids ask me if I'd run a Dungeon and Dragons club at the school, and I specifically say no because that Dungeons and Dragons or gaming in general is my mental health time, right? I do that to get away from my job. And so I try to make sure that I have that time every single day, 20 to 30 minutes just to write something.
I want to add too, when I don't have anything to write, I love it. Like actually, I'm in a very small gap right now, and so it allows me to binge watch profusely. So like right now, I'm doing my third watch of For All Mankind, which I love that show, and
Oh,
my wife agreed to watch with me this time. So I do. Even when I don't have stuff to write, I'm feeding myself to give myself fuel for the next writing assignment.
if Jason, if you can tolerate watching Foundation, which is good, but different than something I would expect you to normally watch because it's so far off of what the books were, you need to watch For All Mankind. Seriously.
I that's Apple TV, right?
Yeah.
I know. I've been thinking about that. But to come back to this for a sec, kind of a bit of a closing
I'll
question
answer it,
to.
but go ahead,
Oh, I'm
Tom.
sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
No, go ahead. Go. You say your thought, and then I'll answer Brett's question.
No, no, you answer because this is going to take us in a bit of a different direction. So no,
Okay.
please answer.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, Brad, we talked about project management before. As a project manager, I am driven by production schedules and deadline, right? I have X number of projects on my plate. Every one of those projects has a waterfall schedule that I know when does it have to be written, when does it have to go into editing, when does it have to go into proofreading, when does it have to go to the licensor, when does it have to go to layout, yada yada yada, just down the line. And when you have 5 or 6 of those, I can see at a glance, okay, I'm here on this one, I'm here on this project, I'm here on this project, I'm here on this project, on down the road. I have to write blog posts every week. That's another project that gets a line item. I'm now the project manager for Fallout, so I've got that workload on top of it too. So that's print products and PDF products, Star Trek PDF products, print products, et cetera, et cetera. So I've got all these different lines, all these different projects, all have overlapping schedules and all have different deadlines.
You're a program manager. You're called a project manager, but you really are a program manager because you've got,
Within the program or projects.
yeah.
And so, my entire life I've been really good at compartmentalizing, and my therapist and I are working on that, but like I can compartmentalize really, really good. And that serves me as a project manager because that means on any given day, I can spend half an hour working on this PDF and then immediately pivot to half an hour on this print product to immediately pivot to half an hour on this thing and this thing. Oh, and some crisis just came up on a book 3 cycles ago. Now I've got to spend a half an hour working on that or 10 minutes working on that. So, I told you guys this before. I'm like, on any given day, I could touch 15 different products, and a lot of it's up here, but a lot of it's also on my schedule, right? Like I can see at a glance where I am on any schedule, and I am trying. I'm not perfect because management may see this video or may hear this podcast. I try very hard every week to update my schedules, partly to cover my butt in case something goes wrong, but also just for me to keep track of everything that's happening. This person's sick, so his manuscript's going to be delayed a week. The graphic artist is on vacation, so we're going to need another week to do layout. All these little notes that I'll probably forget, but if I write them down somewhere, then I've got them. So I use Monday. We use Monday.com at Modiphius for most of our project management and just tracking stuff. In addition to that, I've got a day book. Right, every project manager should have a day book. This gives me my day-to-day list of notes and stuff that I need to get done. And now that I've cleaned it, I've got a sitting standing desk that is also a whiteboard. And so I just literally last week I went and bought myself some new dry erase markers. And so my day-to-day tasks, I write down on my day board on my desk,
Oh,
literally
that's nice.
literally right on my desk saying I need to do this and this and this today. And then maybe I need to do this, and then maybe I need to do this, and now all of a sudden I got a list of like 10 things I've got to do today. I may not get them all today. It's somewhere between daily and weekly is what I'm using the desk for. But as I get stuff done, I can just erase it and it's gone and it's done. So between the Monday board keeping me high level track of stuff and my day book keeping me track of like the weekly and the monthly, and then my board, that's how I'm just keeping all these different things moving because project managers, program managers, we're juggling so much stuff. And if you don't keep track of it, things are going to fall. And if you fall, if you let enough stuff fall, then you're going to be out of work because you can't keep it up. Because all of a sudden your deadlines are going to slip and your products are going to slip, and that causes problems. So it's a combination of being somewhere on the spectrum, I'm sure, and being able to compartmentalize and just being focused on hyper focused on specific things at specific times, and somehow they all get done. There is a downside to this, and I think we've talked about this too, and I'm sure we could talk about mental health on some other podcast. But I have identified just by talking to some of my peers in the fiction world who are prolific. I am so compartmentalized and so busy going from project to project to project that I do not build in time for me to appreciate the work that I've done, right? Like my core book, my second edition core book is still sitting here largely unread, except when I have to reference it for page count or for page references or something for the next book that we're working on. I haven't been able to stop for 7 years now to just appreciate all this stuff that we've made over the last 7 years because I'm busy making the next 5 things, right? So, at some point, when we're done with Star Trek Adventures, I don't know when that's going to be, by the way. Maybe I'll have the time then to sit back and stop and go, oh yeah, gosh, that was a really cool book, or that was a really cool product, or whatever. But so the downside to being a project manager for this kind of stuff is, maybe there's other project managers who are better at it than I am to like build in that time to just like enjoy the fruits of my labor, but I'm not there yet, and I should probably be there, but um, that's just where I am.
No, that's hard to do. It's
Yeah.
very hard to do as a PM, especially the way you all the way first of all, the way you're project managing, the way with the way you all write, and with the way the teams, the folks that we've talked with, the folks that we haven't, we can look at the authors in any of the books that um you know that we've done with STA. And I've watched, and I've been an STA fan since it originally came out, and we've talked about that. But just seeing it grow over the years, it's just a very different line in terms of its production and how it's come out and everything than other products out there. And that's not a knock on anything else. It's just very different. And I have an affinity for it, not just even because it's Star Trek, but because of the way we talk, because we could talk about PM stuff, and I just the way it runs, I like I I feel what you're going through as a PM as well.
Nice.
And I love talking to you guys about the writing stuff, because again, as someone who isn't
Yeah.
necessarily a writer, I love hearing, like when you, Michael, and when you guys are talking about calendars and stuff like that. For some, it's not necessarily as interesting a topic. For me, it's fascinating just having to manage all that. And obviously, Michael, we know that there's gaming stuff you're working on and everything else. Val, there's Sentience you're working on. You came, you did, we sometime we have to have you come on and talk about, Once Upon Again and Sentience again. We know there's other stuff that's going on. How you keep up with all of that? Heck, I'm even glancing. You see me glance down because I'm checking stuff, because there's work stuff that's peeking on, and I'm still trying to get used again to compartmentalizing, Jim, doing that off of hours.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up here, just kudos to you and those that aren't here tonight, but contributed to
Such a cool book.
to the technical manual.
Before we let you go, and let you all relax, one last question. You're
42.
a fair answer.
Mhm.
So, but we really hit our stride with episode 47. I digress. So, you're all distributed, right? I mean, it's 2025, we're on Zoom, etc. Right? Like right now, we're talking from wildly different parts of the country, which is very cool. Okay. So, dream with me for a moment, fictionally, but hopefully not someday. So the three of you, or the three of you, or maybe the broader writing team for Tech Manual or whatever, it's sometime in the near future. You are, and I'm defining you however you want, right? However many in the writing team. You all are sitting in a space together, physically for the first time. You're all around a table somewhere. What would you be doing?
And the answer is not playing Rochambeau.
No, like you're all physically present together, the writing team, face to face around a table. What would you be doing or talking about or
Hugging
whatever?
and weeping profusely because we've never seen each other in person and we've been waiting for these moments. That's
Yeah,
my
I think
initial
it'd be a
reaction is just
quite an emotional
celebrating.
experience, right? Like just finally getting to see everyone in real life, and because I think through the process that we go through, we truly become friends, right? Because we rely on each other, we help each other out, and to seeing someone on the other side of a camera is one thing, but being there with them, I think is just something completely different. So it
There's
would be a
also,
very emotional
yeah,
first couple hours for me.
and there's also an intimate trust that's built up. Like I didn't know these people in 2017, right? And now, like, I take criticism from them. I ask them advice. I tell them what I'm working on. We discuss what I would say business intimate details. Like, how does it work? Like, how does this work
Yeah.
for you? What do you do? Because that's not available out there generally. So I really feel supported by all the people I've been privileged to work with, and I return the support to them. So that kind of collegiate, is that the right word, collegiate relationship, is
Collegial, collegial.
legal. Yeah, so it's basically
Is
like
that what it
you know
is, Jason?
I'm
the
not
Come on,
person's
helping.
going
Jason, you're
like,
the
I'm not
professor.
helping.
the
Come
person's
on.
giving you a leg up. They're putting their hands, they're
Yeah,
binding them
that's cool.
together, and they're letting you you let them put their foot on your hand. You're going to propel them up, right? And that kind of business relationship is rare, and especially I think in our new modern society where we can be over Zoom and not have ever met these people and still
Yeah.
have that. So if you put us all in a room together, we have a lot of human interaction to make up for that we've lost, I think, with Zoom.
Yeah. And I think so first to answer your question, I would hope we were either sitting around in a casual restaurant or we had like a hotel suite that we could rent so that we're just left to our own devices. Maybe not around a conference room, but like
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
suite, sitting on some couches with some snacks and some drinks, just shooting the breeze and like connecting in a way that we can't do on a Zoom. But it probably wouldn't be a whole lot different than something like this kind of a roundtable casual environment. And I think part of that is because we've all worked on projects together. And it's like, I'll pull in the theater for a moment. You work with a very tight-knit group for a very short period of time to make a thing. And there's a lot of creativity and a lot of intensity and a lot of push and pull and sometimes some arguments, sometimes some ruffled feathers. But you all get together and you make it happen and then you're done and you go on to the next thing. And like you can't build camaraderie until you've been in the dirt making a thing, right? Now, fortunately, we're not digging ditches, we're not saving lives, we're not, fighting crime here, right? We're making games, which
Oh.
is super creative and super awesome. But we're still able to gel as a unit and get stuff done. And that creates bonds and creates trust, right? Like I think I trust Al and I trust Michael, and I like to think they trust me. And we've gotten to a point now where we've worked over the years that we are, or at least I'm comfortable calling them out on their BS. But I also know that they're going to do the same thing for me. They're going to say, is that the best idea? And it's like, I like this piece of art, but you could have done this and this. And it's like, oh, God damn it. Why don't you just appreciate it? But no, but they call me on it, right? And I think that would just translate right over into a personal face-to-face meeting where, I don't think any of us have a hidden agenda, and we're not trying to pull one over on each other, and it's
Yeah.
not transactional anymore. Not to say that it ever was necessarily, but I know there's always that wiggle bit, like I'm a writer and they're the editor and I want more work and I got to get in good with them. And
Yeah.
I don't feel that from either of them.
Now I almost feel like we're searching for work for all of each other.
We
That's
are,
cool.
yeah. We
Like I
won't.
think we've expanded into other genres where it's kind of we're looking out for each other, and even outside of Star Trek Adventures, like, hey, I know
Yeah.
somebody who could do this, and I
Yeah.
think that's been really nice being able to
Yeah,
do
I
that.
mean that's even extended to you two, right? You're part of the family.
It's
Because like Brad, you and I've had some private conversations about mental health and job searching and all that stuff, and that's been valuable to me. And Michael's
I consider you all friends.
yeah.
And, I, you know, it's I whenever you guys come out with something, and we've talked about this. We never ask for any inside info, so I get excited whenever a new product comes out. I like being part of the public when it comes out. I think I said off. I think I said it offline. I don't think I said it when record. I was getting a root canal the day that I heard about the technical manual, so it made a crappy day much less crappy hearing about it.
But like when you
Um,
and I were talking about this one, because right, like we both like bought it instantly, and
yeah,
going
I
through the
bought it in
P
the car.
right, going
Yeah,
to the P through the PDF, and it's like at this point, it's like it's not just, oh, look at what this is, but it's look at what those guys, those people made. And it's like we know who's behind a bunch of this now, and that's super cool. It's like this is something you all made, and we can see you and hear you and feel you in this stuff,
and
and it makes it
and
better.
and I'll say this sincerely because I don't feel at this point, knowing you all, there's no need for me to do any buttering up or anything like that. We don't have that type of friendship. There's two science fiction franchises in American history that stand out: Star Trek and Star Wars, right? Those are the two. There's a lot of other ones out there, but those are the two that attract people's attention. Um, Gaming, let's be honest, the Star Wars gaming franchise is in limbo right now. We don't know what's going to happen to it. We just, we don't know what's going on with the gaming studio. We just don't know. The Star Trek one is thriving. Um, it's thriving, it's growing, and the product is second to none compared to no disrespect to it, but to anything that came before it. I'm excited every time a new product comes out because we know that it's I don't know how I it just we do know how but every time a new product comes out, it's somehow better than the product that came before. You guys have somehow found a way, Jim, and everyone that's involved have somehow found a way to improve in some form or another on the product that came out just before it. So, and again, it's arguably one of two, if not the number one, you could argue, thanks to Disney, the number one sci-fi um, franchise out there and amongst the American zeitgeist. So I'm very thankful for that. Um, and I'm thankful for all of you guys for doing what you have done for
And
these past years.
we hope you do get a chance to be in that room together.
Yeah,
I know me
and
Jim,
that. Thank you.
I don't
And
know
I would.
when is this
I would.
airing? When is
What?
this airing? Do you know when this podcast is airing?
Yeah, he'll tell you.
Um,
And as he does that, I would humbly ask that Dice and Mind be the documentarians for that time
If
when
you're in
that does
Washington
occur.
D.C. on what? If you're on Washington D.C. on April 12th, me and Jim are actually having dinner for the first time together.
nice. Well
I'm
done.
I'm
Nice.
quite thrilled, and I can't wait. And the whole restaurant's going to be like, "What's wrong with these guys?" Before you, "Ah."
Well,
our
you're gonna bring some levity and some happiness to a city that just doesn't seem to have any these days.
Well, my
So
my
good.
goal is to either have a drink or have a meal with Al, because
Yeah,
you're
I
on the
haven't met
short.
Al in a
I
while.
haven't done that with you
Al, where
yet.
are you located again?
I'm in New England,
New England. Yeah.
right on the
Oh,
border of New Hampshire and Maine.
I'm going to be
oh,
in New Hampshire in I'm going to be in New Hampshire in July for a week plus. We will talk.
Yeah,
Al,
send me a
have you
message.
met Jim in person?
Not yet.
Not yet? Oh wow, this is weird.
But
Yeah.
we're working on it though. We're trying to figure out a way to make it happen, if not this year, maybe next year.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, Jason, Brad, I'm going to be
That's
back up.
hilarious.
I'm going to be back up your neck of the woods in August,
Yep,
and
good.
I'll be up there again in October. I think I'm pretty sure October for a weekend, and there might be an opportunity to
I
connect.
I'll be here and I'll be on sabbatical, so whatever works for your schedule, I will make it work.
But
and
I
if
think
it's a weekend,
And
then
we'll get
I
Brad up
can.
too.
Yeah, I will make it up, and especially now that things are settled
Hmm.
down here, um, I should have no reason not to.
but Brad,
So
you said something I wanted to comment on, and I'm trying to remember what
yeah,
that was. Oh, you were talking about how, not to be self-serving, but you were
yeah,
talking about how the Star Trek books are continually
they're
iterating.
iterating in a positive way, getting better every time. There's something
Yeah,
new and different. Like
100%.
when you added in just the idea of lit, and reading them. I mean, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, that
Anyway,
you know what I was saying.
so I appreciate that you picked that up, and that's entirely intentional because, like me personally, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always trying to iterate myself and trying to improve myself and trying to learn new things and just see what I can kick around and expand my brain. But also, I'm continually trying to innovate and try new things with the game and with the products. Like, what can we do different? What can we do better? What can we do? What can we push to make it different? And I do that with my writers, and to their credit, Alan, Michael, and Aaron, and all the other ones that I bring on, they're also constantly learning and growing themselves and want to keep pushing the boundary and keep pushing the envelope and keep pushing the envelope. So collectively, and that's why I keep coming to them, right? Because like they feed that, right? They're doing it themselves. They're feeding me to do that, and collectively, we're all pushing the boundary. Like, what can we do with Star Trek RPG differently or more? How can we continue to push that 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 envelope? And Brad and Jason, like you both have mentioned several times on the show, how you've seen a progression from the player's guide, the game master guide,
Oh yeah.
on throughout all.
Mhm.
So you see that through line that even I can't see because I can't. I'm too
Yeah.
close to the books, and
Because you have to step back and enjoy and appreciate what you've done.
right, and I can't do that
Mhm.
because I'm on to the next one, and I'm on to the next one, and I'm on to the next one. Someday I'll stop. Someday I'll stop, but not now. Anyway, so I'm just glad, Brad, that you are so observant for these kind of things and that you can reflect them. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, we love the stuff. There isn't a day that goes by, honestly. I mean, let me rephrase that. There may be a
No,
day,
it's
but there
that's
isn't
pretty
at
accurate
least,
actually. Yeah.
yeah, where we don't talk about
I
the
my
series in some way. Jason and I.
my so I my office, so we're doing my office is being renovated right now downstairs. Complete demolition and renovation. It's been going on since January. Not quite a month from now, it'll be done. It will be gorgeous. It will not smell of mold or humidity. I mean, one dreams of such things.
But it will smell of Jason.
I mean, you can't have everything. So
Mhm.
my office for the past 2.5 months, and it will be almost 4 months when this is done, is in the dining room in a little nook. I have a little space. I have my laptop case, my MacBook. I have a little area for like the keyboard and my computer stuff. And then next to it, I have my STA folder and the starter rule set. And it's just permanently out there. That's my entire office right now for
Right and
like
proper.
a third of the yeah, a third of the year, so that anytime I want, I can just grab that, relax, flip through, and it just gives a nice like I don't my wife and my daughter don't even notice, but for me it's like just seeing the cover every day like just gives a nice positive push. Like, oh yeah, there's hope.
I found I'll say this on recording as we wrap up. I have an office where I'm working now, and I don't even think I've told Jason this. I wanted to decorate the office a little bit so it doesn't look so bare. And I put up two posters that I had that are about 25 years old of Apple. Think different posters. And I wanted to put up a Star Trek poster. And I have an original release first contact poster from 98, but it's wrapped up because I used to have it up in an office from 20 years ago, but it's in too rough a shape to do that. So now I'm looking at something that's STA related that I can maybe blow up into something
That's a good
like
idea.
poster sized that I can put up, because then I'll have something computer related, something game related,
I
and
like
then I
that.
have something for my hockey team that I have put up in there. That
Oh
will
heck,
generate
oh
discussion.
heck, I'll just send you a Swole Trek poster.
Oh, there we go. That'll be good. Good enough. That'll be good enough.
It's just
And
gonna
for those
be
that don't
Michael,
know, that will
Michael from the
forever be,
waist.
that's just
No,
gonna float, and that we'll just let that simmer
Michael
out
Yeah,
in
from
don't
the
this.
let them
waist
know
up
why.
with an
Yeah.
idic around his neck. That's gonna be the whole poster. That's it. Gentlemen, thank you
Oh,
so much, seriously,
Thank you
for
yeah.
guys.
indulging us and coming and just talking as a team. This was such a treat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as always, thanks for having us on the show. Love being here. Love talking to you all.
Thanks again to the three, to Michael and Al and Jim for joining us today. That was phenomenal. And I'll be quite honest with you, I knew it was running like later for them.
Hmm.
Um, you know, we tried our best to keep it within a time within
Yes.
a time space,
Yes.
and be cognizant, because they fully well know we could keep them for hours.
That's right.
So, oh, did you hear that? I think the Loon Cafe is calling us. Shall
We
we head
should
on over?
we should head over.
Maybe I might break not a fourth wall, but a wall. You did travel this weekend to finish or
Oh
finalize
yeah, thanks. Yeah,
the prep for something.
I went down to South Carolina to spend a weekend with Dr. Aaron Peterson, right, who is
Mm-hmm.
obviously a friend of both of us and has been on the podcast and whatnot. And um, as our listeners may or may not recall, Aaron and I wrote Leadership in Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and as you are very well acquainted, since you wrote a chapter for it, we just that weekend submitted the revised full manuscript for an anthology of essays on Star Trek and leadership to our other publisher, and that's moving along. It seems really nicely. So that was, yeah. Thanks for asking. That was fun. It's nice to have that kind of tucked away for a little bit. And then, yeah, and then actually in the middle of all that, we submitted a week or two ago, 2 weeks ago now, we submitted the book where we focus on Pike. So it's been a good time. It's been a
That's the true follow-up to your first book on leadership and Star Trek.
yeah,
That's like you said, that's focused on Pike, right? Is that, I think you
Yeah.
just said that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's focused on Pike and the role of humility in
Oh, see,
leadership.
I
And
love
so he
that.
went from leadership through Trek to humble leadership through Trek to lots and lots and lots and lots of perspectives on leadership through Trek.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know what's coming next. But so they're all kind of in different stages now, but moving along.
You've been doing, I mean, seriously, and I know there are other projects out there that you've pondered and so on. You are on like a writing kick,
Yeah, yeah,
in
it's a good
some
time.
form or another,
You know, I fell in love with it I mean years ago now. And you know, you get the bug and it's just such a joy. I mean, I really truly do enjoy. I love writing research and theory articles. Like I do. But book and chapter writing, especially book writing, especially if it's your own, that's a different kind of freedom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what's on your desk or
Well,
shelf?
sorry, I digressed.
Oh,
Beyond all of that, are you reading or doing
um,
anything
yeah,
like
so
gaming or RPG related,
yes, sort of. So it's
Okay.
not, and this won't surprise you because I had sent you photos today. It's
Hmm.
not what's on my shelf. It's that I'm soon to have my shelves back. So
Yes.
as of the end of this afternoon, my home office is more than 99% done. There is a return vent plate and an electrical plate that still need to be reattached. And then the office is done.
Okay.
And
When's the
it's
ETA on that?
uh right now the final walkthrough of the contractor is still scheduled for 11 days from now.
Okay.
So I can't put anything back in there yet because of that
Yeah.
walkthrough. It's like there are it's that and the bathroom downstairs. There's still active spaces. That the bathroom still has a bit left to go. It's almost done.
Yeah.
Um but so like little areas of touch up, that you've been through this like with your kitchen.
Hmm.
Like little things like okay, this is scuffed, this is chipped, whatever. And so as badly as I want to, because like I mean, now, like what my office was like before, and I loved it. Loved it.
I loved it. I
I
loved that.
I thank you. It was truly my happy place. Truly my happy place. But now it's got this big window, this big egress window, and plush carpeting. And
I'm
and
waiting for
it's
you to put a
oh my
futon in there in case you need to sleep in there because you're going to be like, "Oh,
yeah.
this is my happy place." And
Seriously,
I
well, and
Yeah.
Amy's like, now that you're gonna have some space, you should think about putting like a futon or something in there.
Oh, that
Um, so yeah, we'll see. I don't
I
think
don't
so.
I was joking. I don't
Yeah,
think you need to do that. I think you
yeah.
really are you really gaining space?
I actually lost 3 inches in along the two outer walls because of
Leaving jokes out of it.
right, because of the framing and the
Yeah.
insulation. But you can't
Okay, well that's
tell. So functionally, no, I'm not losing any
the way
space.
because I
Yeah.
was saying that once you start putting things back, obviously you might maneuver or do things. The way you
For
had it set up originally
was
was
pretty good.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most of the furniture is going back, but the egress window, because it goes down to like midriff or not midriff, but like chest, like diaphragm
You had
height.
a table below that.
My workstation is still going to be the same. That was all
Okay.
thought out in the placement. They put heaters back in. So like I had to run them today so I could burn off the oil because they're new.
Yeah,
And other than setting off the fire detector every 5 minutes,
of course.
I had it set to 65 in there with the window open and it was warm. And if you recall, my
Was it warm up
office,
there today?
no, my office
Okay.
was freezing before. So
Yes.
to have a working heater and insulation is incredible. So, um, no, the furniture will largely go back, except I'm going to make some changes, like the stereo, like all non-book things are coming off of the bookshelf. So we talked about the stereo is going to
Stereo.
be
Yep.
against the other wall. Receiver is going to be, and turntable are going to be up on a bookshelf against the other wall, like you had suggested, speakers on the floor. So, but the chairs, the desks, all of that's going to go back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
how's the and Mira and I checked so my younger daughter checked tonight when because she just came home from a week away for spring break with her uncle and cousins, but We checked, and the painters, not only did they enamel the bookshelf, but they put back all of the shelves and they spaced them beautifully. So all of the shelves, uh, like I don't even have to readjust now for all of my RPG stuff if I want.
Oh, they're back in the right spaces, so you have the right
They did the height
distance.
in a way that accommodates everything.
Oh,
So
nice.
so although I might just dedicate a separate shelf right on the other wall
Yeah.
to RPG, but either way, I'm not even 2 weeks away from moving back into the office, and then all of the RPG stuff is back out and loving it.
Oh, that'll be
Yeah.
nice.
What are you reading or what's on your desk?
Well, I think I somewhat mentioned this in our future guests, but I'm this is going to be like a time shift type of thing, but um
Ooh.
in the um yesterday a package came from Modiphius with
Oh.
the Fallout RPG.
Oh yeah.
They had a spring sale on, and I had um credit that I had available, so I picked up a couple items related to it. It's been very hard to find. They had run out of print on a lot of stuff
Really?
on it. For a long time, it wasn't available
I mean,
in
it's a good
print.
sign.
Yeah. It's very popular. It must have been, or it's just been out of print for a while. I really hadn't followed it all that much.
Yeah.
Um, and so I picked up the core rule book and the starter set.
Ooh, have you had
Um,
time to look through them?
I have not. That's going to be a weekend task.
Okay.
But I showed it to my son, who has played all the video games and has watched the TV series.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and I had started to watch the TV series um, toward the end of last year, and then paused it once work started, and
Yeah.
once I was in the interview process and everything else, and I just didn't want distraction.
Yep.
Um, but I did last night pick up the PDF of the television characters on the
Okay.
Modiphius site, um, because he looked at I showed him the core rule book, and he opened it up and he was paging through it, and then he walked away with the core rule book. He was just paging through it, and then he just kind of turned and walked away. And I'm like, he just took my core rule book. Um, and I'm like, cool. And he came back a little
Nice.
bit later and he goes, I think I'd like to play this.
Okay.
Um, so,
Nice.
um, so perhaps in the future, I'm gonna see, because he's extraordinarily busy right now. You know, he's just coming off of being sick.
Yeah.
Um, you know, he's got school. He's still in school for another, almost 2 months. I'm not going to
Yep.
introduce
Yep.
another variable right now.
Nope.
So it'll be a summer thing. Plus, I am the other thing. I'll tell you about the other thing I'm working on related to games, which is our thing.
Ooh.
But maybe this summer. Um, and I want to learn about it. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, the material is very cool. And
Okay.
the other
Neat.
reason I picked it up is because we have another connection to the Fallout RPG, is
It's
because
true.
our friend Jim Johnson
That's
now
right.
is the project manager for
That,
that.
yes, he is. Yep.
So a lot of the material as it stands now doesn't have um,
Right. Right. He's on the
his
newer stuff.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but that's been it. Beyond that, and Um, I haven't dug in to look at it because the two things that have taken up my time are GURPS and Mistborn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I finally
Wait,
started to read them.
Stormlight.
Mistborn.
Oh, so are you reading?
I have
You
both
do.
trilogies,
Okay. Oh, good for
and
you.
and I started with Mistborn because that's the one that you read. I was
Yep.
going to start with Stormlight,
Yeah.
but then because
Mhm.
you had read Mistborn,
Okay.
I figured I'd read that one first.
And it's a much more accessible, shorter novel.
Yeah, and I figured then we can have a conversation
Yeah.
about
How far in are you?
just about 50, 60 pages.
Okay.
So, because I just started it a couple days
Oh,
ago.
I'm looking forward to talking about that with you. The
Yeah.
the hard magic. And as I'll just say he doesn't explain everything, but by the end of the novel, he explains a ton of what you're encountering up front, and
Yeah.
it just gets more and more interesting.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I started reading it in anticipation of a future
Yeah.
from the time people are listening to this, a future interview.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Well, on that note,
but yeah, I mean I'm settling in now where I can start to enjoy some of this stuff. And
good for you.
I've been wanting to do something RPG related that
Yeah.
was just a little different. And that's why Fallout kind of caught my
Yeah.
attention.
That's neat.
So, and I don't know if you've ever dug into, and I mean, I still got the Warhammer stuff sitting out there and all that,
Yeah.
but the Fallout universe is
I watched at least the first couple episodes.
yeah.
And
It's
I had a hard time
kitschy.
getting into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it, but
the TV show, you're either going to
Okay.
like it or you don't.
yeah.
I played the original video games
Oh, wow.
back in the
Okay.
90s when
Okay.
they first came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember those. The TV show's different
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
I
But
remember
fair.
the
But
video
fun.
games.
Yeah.
But fun.
Yeah.
Trent played them. My son played
Cool.
them too. So but yeah, I don't know yet how truly the RPG will play, but
Yeah. You'll see it.
he seemed interested, and it's funny how it is licensed from Bethesda, the developer of the
Yep.
game. The artwork is all Fallout. It's just really well done.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. We'll have to talk more about that.
Yeah. So
All right. Well, you all know the deal. Thanks so much, as always, for being with us. Um, hope you enjoyed this episode's chat. We did, big time. And I know everybody that Brad and I say this almost every end of episode, but seriously, people, we have some really, really interesting episodes scheduled and a bunch of them recorded, taking us straight into the summer. So stay tuned. But in the meantime, be well, stay well. We will see you in a couple weeks.